Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races. So here is our handicap analysis video. I did post these a few days ago, so you may have already seen these. There's a couple of little changes since then, or things that have been announced since then. So let's go over those horses that caught my eye from the handicap marks that were released on Tuesday. Starting off with Aboma Gold, who is going to get one more chance. So Aboma Gold is now down to a mark of 82. Looks very, very well handicapped now, Aboma Gold. The problem is he's been woefully out of form, hasn't he? He's dropping in the handicap now, despite being in races that you kind of feel he should have been getting involved in. Particularly last time at Doncaster over 5 furlongs when he was quite well supported, actually. I think he go off favourite, 4-1. Kind of kept up this time and then never found a lot. I'm going to give the horse one more chance this season and probably, in his career. And that's hopefully next time out in this race. Let me just load this up. The race that I highlighted a few weeks ago, back in October, or October the 15th, there's a 6 furlong handicap on the 9th of November at Doncaster. Now, if that, the horse is just about going to get in this. It's an 81 to 100. The horse is rated 82. This is literally like last chance saloon for me. If Aboma Gold doesn't show anything there, I'd be dropping him from my interests going forward. Yeah, he might end up winning a much lower class race, a class 3, class 4 race. But I would have given up on him by then because he's had enough chances. If 5 furlongs is just finding him, it's going a bit quick now. This 6 furlongs has got to be the last possible option. We're back at Doncaster, where he does run well. So, yeah, that would be the last chance saloon, really, for Aboma Gold. But he is well handicapped, so we have to bear that in mind. The next horse that I'm going to talk about is Supreme Gift, who dropped £1 to 135, or 129 over fences. And I have a feeling he might go back over fences now. And maybe this run at Cheltenham was just to get him, fitness back into the horse. They had been over fences, as you can see down here, in 2023, October, November, December and January, before then dropping him back to hurdles, where he did well, second, first and third, and they might have got everything they can out of him over hurdles now. And they're going to go back over fences. So if they do go back over fences, he's obviously nicely handicapped in the fact that he's only 129 over fences compared to the 136 that he actually ran off over hurdles at the weekend. And I liked him over hurdles. I thought he had a good chance. He ran better than his position suggested. He finished 7th in the end, beaten 13 lengths. 7th of 12, but Harry didn't give that the best of rides, did he? He went all the way around the outside. I'd hate to think how much ground he'd given away. I bet if he'd been on the inside, he would have finished a lot closer. And yeah, back over fences. He was quite highly tried last season over fences. He went into a novice handicap against Tamuras. He then went to Hereford. He ended up taking on the likes of Henry's Friend. Again, good form. Before dropping back to hurdles, where he did okay. Now, I'd like to see them go over fences and go for this race here, the SAFE Handicap Steeplechase over 2 mile 5. I think the trip will be fine. He has been running over that sort of trip. You can actually see he's got a win to his name at Ascot over 2 mile 5. That was over hurdles. Send him over fences. It's in a handicap. It's for horses rated 0 to 145, so he gets in. It's back at Ascot. He's got form at Ascot. If we look through his form here, he has a win, a second, and a win. So he's actually got, really good form at Ascot. 1-2-1 at the course. It's a chase. And maybe he just needed that run at the weekend. And if he did, this race on Friday the 22nd of November is definitely a race that I'm interested in for Supreme Gift going forward. So let's make sure that he's in our NAGMI. Handicap Chase, Ascot, Nov 22nd. Was it November 22nd? Just double checking that. Yes, it was. So that's the race that I like for Supreme Gift. Off a significantly lower mark. As I said, I liked him over hurdles. I thought he'd have a good chance. Over fences, I'd be silly if I missed him next time out. Potentially back over a trip that is more to his liking. Moving on to the next horse that caught my eye, and that's First Street, who's dropped £2 to 138. Now, let's just have a look what I put in for her. Well handicapped over hurdles, Betfair. Definitely. So, First Street ran an okay race over hurdles at Kempton. Finished 4th, beaten 12 lengths by Rabaul, beaten also by Kieva and Authorised Art. Never really got close enough from the back of the field. Dropped from a mark of 140 to a mark of 138. Now, if we go back through her, I always say her, it's a he. I always think this is a mare for some reason. If we go back through his form, we can go, okay, Chase, so ignore those. I don't think he's very good over fences. Hurdles at Ayr, 14th. That looks disappointing. It was disappointing. He was beaten 27 lengths off a mark of 143. Maybe the soft ground didn't suit him, potentially. Generally, he does run better on good ground. It was also a very competitive handicap, but the races I'm going to be suggesting are also very competitive, so that that's not really an excuse. Maybe it just didn't work that day at Ayr, or for whatever reason. You can often give a horse one or two like freebies sort of thing. And if we actually look further back, he's got another run at Ayr. He was 8th. Beaten 18 lengths by Rabaul, got beat by Colonel Mustard, Anna Bonina, Parisian Score, Salsada, Milkwood, Soaring Glory. Maybe he just doesn't like Ayr. So, if we can forgive him that run, let's keep going back through his form. 3rd at Cheltenham, behind Lossiemouth in January in a Grade 2. Nothing wrong with that. 3rd the time before that at Kempton in a Grade 1 behind Constitution Hill. 2nd over fences, we're ignoring that. Back to Kempton, finished 3rd behind Rabaul and Too Friendly in a listed race, so still not into handicaps. Disappointed at Ayr in a handicap. Cheltenham, 11th, that's not great. Beaten 9 lengths in the county hurdle off 152. Okay, so suddenly when we're getting back to these handicaps where at courses that the horse can run well, we're off a really high mark, 152. I'm now looking at a race of 138, so £14 lower. And that wasn't disastrous, only beaten 9 lengths at Cheltenham. We then go back before that, it was at Wincanton, finished 3rd behind I Like to Move It in a Grade 2. The race before that, Grade 2, then won a handicap at Newbury, as we can see here, off a mark of 146. So it was actually a £8 higher mark the last time this horse won a handicap at Newbury. We keep going back. We then go 5th to Jonbon. Obviously, that was a Grade 1. 2nd in the county hurdle, off a mark of 142, beaten by State Man. And then 3rd back here in a Betfair hurdle, off a mark of 141. So we could almost say that the runs that of similar-ish marks in handicaps at courses that we like. So we're taking out Ayr. We're going to give that a miss, that race. I know we're probably filtering down a bit much here. We say the horse likes Newbury, Cheltenham, probably Kempton. The form there does suddenly look really good. Has won a handicap at Kempton, has finished 3rd in a Betfair hurdle, 2nd in a county hurdle, has won the intermediate handicap hurdle at Newbury. So really good form in those handicaps. Off similar-ish marks. Why doesn't this horse get targeted for that Betfair hurdle now? The Betfair hurdle, the county hurdle, just do that again. I'll be very, very interested to see State Man, if they go... State Man, First Street, if they stick to this handicaps that they... Or back to handicaps now, over hurdles, particularly at Newbury, Cheltenham or Kempton, hopefully with the Betfair hurdle and the county hurdle in mind. So these were some of the runs. This was a disappointing one at Ayr, but this was not. This was a good run in a Grade 3 Betfair hurdle behind Glory and Fortune and I Like to Move It. This was a good run behind State Man. This is obviously a huge run behind State Man. And then in this county, when disappointed, back in 11th, was off a significantly higher mark, 152 to 138, £14 higher mark. So moving on to the next horse that caught my eye in the handicap marks, that is Apple Away, who's dropped £1 to 141. Now I think Lucinda's horses are generally needing the run, or they're being looked after. Particularly, we obviously saw the likes of Ahoy Sinor given a gentle ride. I think Apple Away was also given a gentle ride. Now, where would I go with Apple Away? Apple Away is not going to be winning graded races, not in open company. I don't think the horse is anywhere near good enough. So what do you do with it? You target handicaps. Where could you go? This race here. This is on the 16th of December. It was last year. It's going to be around that time this year. It's a 3-mile handicap chase for horses rated 0 to 150. So Apple Away, being rated 141, gets in quite comfortably. And if we actually look back through her form, you can see that on the 4th of March, she went to Doncaster and she actually won a race at Doncaster. So that's always good to have a bit of a form course record sort of thing. Been there once, won by 4 3/4 lengths in a listed novice hurdle, beating She's a Saint, and won it quite comfortably, to be honest, making all the running. So that looks an obvious one for Apple Away. I'm actually going to skip to a later horse that I also want in the same race, and that is Some Scope. Now, Some Scope, the trainer, has actually come out and said that there was slight issues with the horse at Cheltenham, and they're going to look for an easier race for it next time. Well, that easier race is definitely this race here at Doncaster. It's a significant, and a much easier race. The horse has dropped £1 to 125, and to be fair, the horse never really gets going on seasonal return. 5.5p is the form now. Where do I hope that Some Scope runs? Doncaster. In that race, potentially against Apple Away. If they both turned up, we'd struggle to pick between them, to be honest. But why do I want Some Scope to go to Doncaster? Similar again. The horse has been to Doncaster twice, you can see. Has won, beating the Ferrymaster, and then finished second in the Grimthorpe behind Does He Know. That's better form than what would be required to have won this race from last season. So if Some Scope turns up here, I think Some Scope would have a massive chance as well. So let's make sure both of those are in our Nagme. Apple Away to Doncaster 3-mile handicap chase, mid-December. And we'll actually copy that and paste that into Some Scope as well, because I want him in exactly the same race. From there. So that's Some Scope, who dropped £1 as well. So back to a previous horse, Broadway Boy. Now Broadway Boy got beat into third at the weekend in the feature handicap chase at Cheltenham. The horse has really good form at Cheltenham, as you can see. Look at his form at Cheltenham. He's got a win over 2 mile 7, second, first, and now a third. His second previously came to Flooring Porter. That's really strong form. You was never going to be able to, Flooring Porter's a grade 1 horse, and he's still demonstrating that when winning the Kerry National recently off a mark of 149. The horse is probably rated, I still think the horse is rated high 150s, even over fences. So Broadway Boy, to be beaten by him, wasn't a disappointing run at all. Last time out at Cheltenham, may have needed the run, hadn't run for 197 days. And I actually think he got beat by the right horses. The 2 Henry de Bromhead horses were probably very well handicapped in England. Senior Chief, obviously, we were on. That was our horse on the day. We'd highlighted it a few days before, actually. Won nicely, beating the other Henry de Bromhead horse. I probably feel that they were ahead of their mark in England anyway. So Broadway Boys arguably ran a really good race. Now, he could go for the Coral Gold Cup at Newbury. And personally, I think he will. If he disappoints, though, do not give up on this horse. If he disappoints in the Coral Gold Cup, I think they'll then go, okay, we're going to work back from the Ultima. If he turns up in the Ultima off anywhere around his mark, 149, 148, 147, 146, 145 sort of mark, I'd be very keen on Broadway Boy in the Ultima at the Cheltenham Festival. And it's probably all about his next run for me, which I think will be in the Coral Gold Cup. If he gets beat in that and well beaten in that, I still wouldn't give up on him going forward. I do like Newbury and Cheltenham as courses that generally work out quite well, so I wouldn't be knocking him for his chances in the Coral Gold Cup even. But I do... that's going to be really competitive, the Coral Gold Cup. I think there's a few trainers planning and plotting a route there, or have plotted a route there, whereas the Ultima doesn't often have that as much, in my opinion. But if they think about it now, get him beat a couple of times, disappoint, potentially running grade 1 events, keep dropping a couple of pound, turn back up for the Ultima at the Cheltenham Festival, I think he would. I honestly think he would have a huge chance. And he would be one that would have been laid out for that race. In my opinion, that would be the better option. Go for that rather than the Coral Gold Cup, because I think it's going to be a slightly easier race, and it's going to be a Cheltenham Festival, winner. I think if he turned up, if we ran them all there now, off their marks even, I would be really keen on Broadway Boy. So that's Broadway Boy. Let's put him down. Working back from the Ultima 2025. And finally, the last horse I want to talk about is Lmos, who finished 5th in that race behind Senior Chief, the Short Go, Broadway Boy, Does He Know? And then back in 5th was Lmos. Now, Lmos was very kindly dropped £3 for that, which I think was a very crazy drop, to be honest. I think that was... I don't totally understand that when some of the other horses around weren't dropped anywhere near as much. Lmos ran well for a long way and just blew up at the end. That came off a 182-day break. Probably wasn't, fully tuned up, and I'm sure they were very pleased with how he ran. I was actually watching the race, and I'd had Lmos down for a future race. And about 3 out, I'm like, not today, Lmos. I was still hopeful for Senior Chief, and we did win that. But I was thinking Lmos was going to run a really big race. Now, he disappointed. Well, he didn't disappoint. He just got tired late on. But he dropped £3 to 144. Well, that only means... Well, actually, it means he's £2 lower. £2 lower than when winning the Coral Gold Cup in 2022. Formerly known as the Hennessy, formerly known as... What is it? Something else. It wasn't the Whitbread Gold Cup, was it? It was just the Hennessy. The Whitbread's at the end. Is it at the end of the season one? I think so. Anyway, I'm too young for that. He won the Coral Gold Cup of 146. He's down to 144. So I was very, very surprised that he wasn't given an entry in it. He's not in the Coral Gold Cup, which does make me think, what does Dan have there for that he's going to think is his big chance? And we'll come on to that in another video. So where does this horse go? Not totally sure. Maybe, I know Dan Skelton mentioned the Badger Beers or the Badger Ales, whichever one it's called. He's also mentioned the... what else did he mention? He mentioned something else in his preview recently. But he's definitely one that I want to keep an eye on, Lmos, wherever he goes next. It's got to be a feature handicap. I think he's being aimed at something. Not totally sure what yet, but he's worth adding to your NAGME, because whatever he goes in next, whatever handicap, I'd be very interested in him off 144, considering he's won a Hennessy or a Coral Gold Cup off a £2 higher mark. So I'm going to put down next time out in a feature handicap. And that is Lmos. So they're my horses this week from my horses to follow. It's a little bit disorganised, unlike usual. Starting off with Aboma Gold. One more chance at Doncaster. Supreme Gift back over fences now, I think. To Ascot for a race at the end of November. First Street, keep an eye out for that in a feature handicap. Particularly the Betfair Hurdle and the County Hurdle could be long-term plans with that. Apple Away and Some Scope could both go to this race at Doncaster in mid-December. I think Some Scope would probably be my preferred one there. He's got 2 bits of form at Doncaster, which are very good. And it's going to be an easier race than what he has been in. And finally, Broadway Boy. Probably next time he'll be interesting. But if he turns up in the Ultima off around his mark that he is now, I'd be very keen on Broadway Boy in the Ultima come March. And finally, Lmos, wherever he goes next, in a feature handicap that is, I'd be very keen on him off a £2 lower mark than when he won the Coral Gold Cup.